Hello, everyone, and welcome to NinjaChris Silly History. I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you've all had a great month, because I've been having a great time. I've loving everything in my life, just chilling out, just meeting with friends, just enjoying life. You've got to enjoy life. And one thing I really love right now is an apple. Everybody loves their apples, I'm sure. And a question I want to put to you is, which one is your favourite apple of choice from whatever country you're from, wherever you're looking? If you're from the USA, you're from Britain. I mean, personally, I always go for a golden delicious. Nice big apple. Actually, I had one of those earlier. Lovely big. Well, maybe not that big. That's a bit too big. Anyway, it's a nice apple. Soft, chewy. Though I suppose a Granny Smith is good as well. Though they do get a bit crunchy. They are a bit of a thicker skin. But they still do taste nice. They are more of a cooking apple. You cook them down and you simmer them off and stuff like that. They usually work better like that. But that's your preference. I don't mind a bit of sour taste, sour, lemony, limey sort of taste. That's fine. It's an apple. I love them. But anyway, we're on the apples and we need to look at their history. We need to go back in time. We need to go back in time about 10,000 years ago, mate. 10,000 years ago is when they found apples. Right over there. I don't even know if I'm pointing towards Kazakhstan or not, but that is where apples began. That is where we first found apples. We first had an apple in Kazakhstan, and yeah, not many people really know too much about it because, well, Kazakhstan back then was mostly part of the Soviet Union, that area, Central Asia, which is pretty much connected to Russia. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, the other stands. I don't know, there's a few others, but they're all around in that central area. Stan likes to stay in Central Asia. I don't know why, but apparently it's a good place to stay. There you go. If your name's Stan, go in Central Asia. There you go. Either way, the apples actually were first found in the Tian Mountains. That's where there was loads of trees, and you got loads of wild trees, which was wild apples. There was the wild trees, which was actually called the malus trees. Back all the way back then, they were called malus. That's the type of tree. And the first type of apple, and forgive me for if I'm saying this completely wrong. I don't want to butcher a Kazakh's language. But the first one, it started with the Malus Severusai by Johannes, because it was discovered by Johann Severus. Yeah, it's by him. He found it, or at least he named it anyway. I don't know when it was named, but gotta remember, this is probably a good back in like 8,000 BC. So yeah, about 10,000 years ago. Yeah, not too long ago. Hey, we'll just go for a trip back then. Yeah, because everybody can do that. When they invent a time machine, maybe I'll go back and have a look. Actually, back then, I probably don't really want to go anywhere near Central Asia because it wasn't exactly the greatest of places to be, especially when you're underneath the Russian area, and they weren't exactly. And I don't think it was exactly the greatest of environments, even back then. But over in that area, that's where you would have found apples. So over in like the Russian Kazakhstani area. But yeah, over the years, as we've gradually gone over, it's all kept coming over. It was mostly the Romans that, obviously, the Romans always seem to get involved somehow. It first get more into like the Levant area because they started getting all the fruity stuff back at like 3000 BC stuff around that time. So they got all the apples, and then eventually the Romans, because they over invaded in the Levant area. Those of you who read the Bible, you know the Romans are quite heavily involved in the parts of that. So they attacked the Levant area and all around the Asia Minor. So basically Turkey nowadays. So all around that area, Israel, Jerusalem, Egypt, all of them sort of places. That's where the apples go. But because the Romans came over, they thought, I'm going to take your apples and other fruits. You know, I like that. I like the taste of those. I'm going to have some of those for myself. And then, well, they obviously invented new ways of kind of storing things, new ideas, new ways to try and keep them lasting longer, because when you've got wild apples back then, they didn't really last long. And you've got to understand that they were apples back then were probably little tidgy apples. Some got a little bit bigger, but they're about the medium size that we get now. But they used to be like little Malteser size, just a little bit bigger. The apples were, so they still tasted nice, but you just didn't get a lot of them. But as generations continued, because in that time genetics changed, and because climates and everything changed, things could grow better. It depended on what climate you were in. But since back over then, the weather, it was that sort of climate. So whatever the climate was like over in Kazakhstan, it was shrinking them, or they just hadn't grown yet. But then they came over to Rome and the Gaelic lands and Greece and stuff like that. It was pretty much all they ate. Whenever they ate, it was like, oh, I've got some fruit. I feel sorry for them sometimes. It's like you're having a diet of fruit. If you want, they could get cattle and stuff. But overall, in this show today, I'm trying to keep steering it back to apples. But I love the Romans. The Romans are awesome, aren't they? The Romans, if it wasn't for the Romans, nearly everything that we have in this world today would probably not have existed, because the Romans, they're an amazing lot of people, they are. But thank you to them for bringing all that fruit over. Wonderful guys, aren't they? As we zoom ahead into the 16th century, as we come further and further ahead, North America got involved. We started traveling. Now, I do believe this did involve Columbus, because he found the Americas. It was him who found the Americas, so it all traveled across over that time. So they all got their fruit, and they all found different varieties again as well, because the trees, they all kind of integrated together and they kind of formed different genetic structures. So you ended up with many different forms of apples, different varieties of apples. It's all because of how the trees genetically combined with each other. I mean, you've got hybrids and stuff nowadays, so you really don't know what kind of apple you're going to end up with. Nowadays, it's all about genetics. And yeah, people are in universities and stuff now, working things through, they're going through all the genetics. So they're trying to make them so they're bigger, because them apples that we had at the start are now bigger, because scientists over time have worked out how they're genetically, and they've worked out how to kind of modify them so you can get them bigger. So that's how we've got big apples. Some big apples nowadays, we've got them because scientists are being so clever. Though some of them, they don't need to be big, risen up. I mean, if you, for example, go the other way, go to Fuji around the East Asian area, that is a big apple. If you've got a Fuji apple, now that one is massive, juicy and everything, but they're really nice. And as I find out, it's probably the only apple they eat over there. they very rarely go for any other apple because that's their native best apple. I've not tried one, but apparently it's hard to get hold of them. Some apples, because they're over in a certain culture, they're only able to be eaten. So if you wanted a Fuji apple, you're probably better to go over to Fuji to get one of their apples, because it's probably big because of the climate that it's used to. If we got a Fuji apple and took it over to Britain or something, it might shrink, or it might get viruses, or pick up some black rot or whatever diseases that the apples can get. And wow, you get really stuck into a lot of stuff. You've really got to protect your apples, especially when I saw them trying to collect them off the trees and stuff. They have got to be careful, because you don't want to bruise your apples, do you? Because if they grip them like that, wherever their hand marks are, you've bruised the apple. High chance. So you've got to keep it in the middle. When you grab it, you've got to make sure it stays in a nice light grip round. And then when you're moving them, transporting them around and stuff, you've got to make sure you're very gentle, because apples are very, very delicate. If you make one wrong error, so you have to be very skilled. It sounds very easy just to move an apple, here you go. But yeah, you've got to protect them, because when you get them in the store, you do see some that are a bit bruised. Yeah, we Brits, we may not be too bothered. We may just say, oh, we'll eat it anyway. Can't be bothered to complain. Let's just eat it. Or some of you may go, I'm complaining. I'm complaining. That apple is bruised. Put a plaster on it or something. There's nothing that's going to stop that bruise. And I'm not eating that plaster. You can't get a plaster to put over that bruise. Best thing is, just don't eat it. It'd still be edible, I'm sure. It just wouldn't be aesthetically brilliant, but it is what it is. And by the way, that Malus silvarius, that was only the first of the malus plants, because over time they've had others as well, because we've got the Malus sylvestris, which I believe is what they called it when they came over to Europe. That's what they named it. And you have a Malus baccata. Honestly, don't know how to say these, but I'm having fun trying. The baccata. Back at you. No, that's not how it's said. It's an easy way to remember, though. Even though that was from Siberia, so that's right. So that is part of Russia. So if you want a baccata, or you did want a baccata, oh, I love saying it. I just love saying it. Baccata. Okay, I'm getting too into that now. It's the Siberian sort of area. So, because Russia, well, it's a big place, and Siberia is just a little part of Russia, especially back then. I believe it was its kind of own little segment until Russia decided they want it all. But I'm not going to argue with the Russians. If part of them did actually make an apple, then well done to them. Got themselves an apple. And we're going to go a bit over to China, because there's some malus over in China. Got some asiatica and prunifolia. They're Chinese soft apples. They're usually good for dessert apples, and they've been going on for about 2,000 years. So back in the 1st century BC, I guess, around that time, give or take. And then we have the Malus orientalis, which is mostly around the Caucasus Mountains. So that's up around near Georgia and Armenia and that sort of places. So basically look up just above Turkey, actually. Just literally just above. And alongside the Black Sea. I think it's the Black Sea. But there's a few little seas around there. I think it's the Black Sea where the Caucasus Mountains are. So it's around that area. So you've got the Malus orientalis. Oh, I love saying these names. They're so fun to say. And I know there's loads of others as well, but I couldn't name them all. There's about there was about 57 different species of malus trees, and they all produce different kinds of apples. So if you want to find more malus trees, it's one of those where you're going to have to try and look through them all, because there is loads of different styles, and I haven't even got onto different types of apple yet, which is amazing, really. But anything that you really want, I mean, your favourite types of apples, I mean, I already asked you that at the start. Which is the one that you prefer to have? What's the memory that you've had with that apple? If it's a positive, maybe anything. It'd be nice to have some good words of apples. Anyway, I need a drink. I'll say hello to some people. Hello, Anna. Hello, Joanne. It's good to have you here. Hey, Stephen. Great to see you here. Wasn't sure if you were going to make it. Wasn't sure if you were going to be awake. It's nice to see you all, though. Deanne, great to see you back as always. Have I missed anyone? Mowley, good to see you. Good to see you as well. It's always great to have anybody here who loves apples or who just loves to have a chat. 57 Heinz varieties. Is it? I don't know. Prunifolia sounds like something a surgeon would have. Yeah. I guess in some ways it does. But it's a Chinese soft apple. Who knew? I didn't until I looked it up. And it's just one of those things. And yeah, 2,000 years. It's been apparently there for 2,000 years. So how the heck did you not have heard of it? 2,000 years and you've not heard of a prunifolia? Yes. We've got to turn our clock. We've got to turn our clocks back. Thankfully, I think my phone does it for me automatically. I believe so, anyway. Let's hope it does, or else I'm stuck. So I'm stuck because I'm still trying to work out a few things on my phone. But it is what it is. I'm burning myself up. Thankfully, I put my fan on because I knew that I'd go all guns blazing and everything. I haven't even got to types of apple yet. I mean, I've already mentioned stuff like the cooking apples and, well, the eating apples. They're usually just the ones that you can just eat, like table apples or the dessert apples. The table apple part kind of makes sense. It's them ones that you see in fruit bowls you can just grab in and just have them. Yeah, because you do that. That's my apple, I'm having it. The apple fiend. Yes, because that's how we do things. And I was talking about not bruising your apples. Well, if you're the one eating it, then it's your fault for bruising your own apple. Oh, well, let's not go bruising any apples. But either way, they're usually the easiest ones, and it's apples like the Golden Delicious and them sort of ones that you can eat. There's also a Cox one that which is actually a more British apple. I've got it here somewhere. The Cox Orange Pippin. That's actually a British one. That one is. And I think my grandma had an apple tree in her back garden that produced the Cox apple, Cox Pippin. I think she had one that produced that because it's good for desserts because it's nice and sweet. So it's nice and sweet and it's good for putting into a nice dessert. So if you want a good dessert, have a nice little Cox Pippin apple. Because, well, they are British and you can get them over here, provided you are British. If you're in Britain, you've got a chance. If you're over in America, well, we kind of trade over. We've worked that out years ago, how to trade over unions and stuff. I think we're good friends now. We're good friends now with America. We're not going back into the 1700s where we're having a revolution. Goodness. I mean, I think we were probably fighting over the apples at that point. It was like, I want them apples. I want these apples. Because, yeah, it wasn't a comfortable time. I was over in the Georgian area, George III. He was a good man, but he liked to attack America. And I can't apologise for enough for his findings, though. He did end up getting the Declaration of Independence, and we are still friends. So that's good. Friends with the Americas, which is good because you're here. Because quite a few of you here are American, so I'm glad that we're friends with you again. But there's a lot of history there. If you want to look into the American English history, you want to look at the Anglo-American kind of situation with the wars, sort of thing, you got to look at George III. But that's when we got Washington. That's when you got Washington, Adams, Jefferson, and Madison, and the other ones who the founding fathers. They created that Declaration of Independence, so we separated off. But we still kind of trade with each other. We're still happy to talk, and if we've got something to share, we'll share it with each other. So if they've got a breed of apple that we like, because America seems to have taken quite a lot of different types of apples, because when I was looking at all the research and everything, quite a lot of apples were in the America area, because you've got quite a lot more sunny spots, essentially, like I guess in California, where it's all like sunny. So when it comes to growing apples, you need to have good sun, but there also needs to be a good temperature, because there is apples that kind of adapt to different kind of temperatures, because there is ones that actually grow better in the winter, so they grow better in cold climates. So check your apples. Make sure you know what the best time your apples are meant to be picked. Usually you pick your apples more in autumn. If you want your standard apples, yeah, usually around that time. But yeah, there is the other ones. I mean, for example, if you wanted an ice cider or something, you'd probably be best picking an apple that can go through the winter. But the thing is, we've got all this technology now where we're able to store apples over winter, because when they take them out of storage, they kind of put them in a refrigerated area so they stay fresh, at least until they get picked, and then they put into some big sorting machine, so they make sure you get the right sizes, because you don't want a pack with a big one, little one, medium one, so they have to sort them. And they have the machine, and they actually have a machine to do that. I mean, it looks really cool when you see them all floating through the machine. It looks really awesome watching them go through. But that's how they sort them, because it checks how big each one is. So they're all sorted into big, small, medium, large. So they're all accurate. So that's why whenever you grab a pack of apples, they are all, or they should all be the same size, because there's a big machine that sorts through all that stuff. There you go. That's the difference between a red and green apple. One's red and one's green. Sorry, it depends. It's one of the. I believe it's one of those that just depends on the climate again, because we can't really go with genetics on everything, because you can get red and green apples all over the world. Sorry to be so blunt with you there, but it's just if anybody else has got an answer that might equate better, go ahead. Though it's just kind of like, I always see red apples, I see green apples, some orangey apples as well, depends, yellow, because it depends on, like I say, it depends on the climate. Might depend on how much sun, depending on how much red and how much. Yes, okay, I'm sorry, Stephen, that my answer wasn't exactly the most effective of answers, but yeah, because it's not just, because the apples aren't just red and green. It's not as simple as that nowadays, because you go red, green, yellow, maybe a blue. Usually that's probably not right, but these genetically enhanced fruits that you can get now, maybe they can make a blue apple, blue grape, or that's grapes. We've done grapes this year. No more grapes. I feel very fruity this year. I'm going through a load of fruits this year, it seems. But I love it. I love it. So we were stuck on the eating apples. Yes, we were trying to eat apples. But now we're going to go. Now we're going to look at a cooking apple. What makes it a cooking apple, eh? It means they're larger and they've got a thicker skin, so they can handle the cooking mechanism. Because obviously, if you try and get a golden delicious and try and cook it, by the end of it, it'll just be mush. You want an apple like a Granny Smith that is strong on the outside and has that soury taste. So when you cook it, all that flavour is released, and you get all that. You got Bramley apples as well, which I find, well, a Bramley apple is kind of a dessert apple. So if you want a Bramley, they're usually good for their desserts and stuff. But it's these sort of ones that you can't really eat straight because it will be so acidic in your mouth. You'd probably want to spit it out instantly. I mean, I think Granny Smith is literally on the brink of just being a cooking apple to an eating apple. But people can eat them, so it's fine. I mean, some of you can eat any apple, but back in time, it's pretty much the only reason why we actually had apples back in time was because we needed cider back then. So it wasn't mostly on the cooking. It was apples were produced mainly for drinking. So even back then, they were all alcoholics. It was all an excuse to get hammered. But hey, it is what it is. Oh, hey Sharon. It's good to see you here. It's always good to see people come back who I haven't spoke to you for a while. It's good. And don't worry about joining in late. I haven't got a time limit. I've not got a clock. I'm not like, where have you been? If anything, where have you been for the last few videos? I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to have you back here with us, though. It's always good. TNR work. I'm going full guns here, aren't I? So yeah, you want cider? Yeah, I need a drink. Thankfully, what I'm drinking is water. The only apple thing that I drink is like apple juice. Prefer mine non-alcoholic, but essentially apple juice is just unfermented. That's what cider is, though, isn't it? It's just fermented apple juice. It's just the main thing is the cider apples, which is actually the name of it. The cider apples have to be bitter, and a dry sort of apple, which is more tart, which is a stronger flavour, because it needs to have more sugar in it for it to mix up and for it to ferment. It needs that sugar content so it can ferment, and it will ferment with the yeast, and it will create the alcoholic beverage that you need. So that's why when you have a cider apple, it needs to be essentially super strong, where the sugar in the apples caramelize, turning the apple butter into. I was going to get onto apple butter later because that is something that I thought was fairly interesting, but it just seemed, from what it looked like when I read about apple butter, it looked just like kind of along the lines of apple sauce. I know apple sauce is a lot more thicker, and it's actually got little. I suppose it depends if you make your own how you want your apple sauce. You can buy them in little pots now. Can't guarantee though whether it's actually ever seen an apple though. Sometimes when you see these things when you see on the shelves it say applesauce, you're like, are you actually made from apples, or are you just coloured apples and taste like an apple, but you're not actually? You've never seen an apple. You've got to be careful with them sort of things, or haven't you? Oh yes, apple brandy. Yes, that one's come up as well. Why is this suddenly becoming to an alcoholics show? I was talking to somebody today who's Alcoholics Anonymous. Why is it with that? It feels like an alcoholic day for me, at least anyway. And the funny thing is about it, I don't even drink. I don't even drink alcohol. This is why I'm saying I'd have an apple juice, but I don't want it fermented. Thank you very much. And I do not know if I am putting on the accent. This is not where I want to go. Okay. Okay, back to English. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, you can do. There's a lot you can do with an apple. It's amazing what you can do. Oh, we'll get to apple dishes later, but I think I've actually mentioned quite a lot of the apples already, because I mentioned the main ones. I mentioned the Bramleys, the Granny Smiths, Golden Delicious, but I also noticed in America you have a Red Delicious as well, which is along a similar line, but funnily enough, it's red. But over years, apparently, it's not as popular as it used to be. Apparently, it used to be popular, but nowadays it's kind of gone downhill a little bit in its flavoursome. But people still eat them, and that's brilliant. Still, I'm glad people still eat them. I found one that's quite funny. I found an Anna apple. Anna, you've got your own apple, which was found in 1959 in Israel, in Ein Shemer. So yeah, which is a popular apple in Florida actually. So you've got an Anna apple in Florida. Oh yes, I was going to get onto the Gala apple, which is a red apple that was found apparently in 1930 in New Zealand. So they look like a nice little small, but apparently they're really flavoursome. They've got really watery, flavoursome kick in it, so it gives you a really nice flavour boost. And there's also one that I come across called a Kanzi, which is a hybrid apple, which is a hybrid of a Braeburn and a Gala apple, so which is why they're kind of smallish sort of apple. So yeah. Oh, Cecilia, it's good to see you back as well. It's always good to see people return. Though I think you were here last month. I can never remember sometimes. Yeah. Pink lady. Oh yes. It's down as pink lady or the lady apple. Appy. Oh no, hang on. We'll get this the right way around. There is a lady apple which was founded in 1626 in Brittany, France, which is very, very teeny weeny little apple. But then we've got the Crips Pink or Pink Lady, because that apple, the Pink Lady, was found in 1973 by a fella called John Cripps in Australia. So it can be called either the Cripps Pink or the Pink Lady. So it depends on what mood you are. Are you a Crip or a Pink? That's how you want to go. You've also got a Cripps Red, which he found as well, which, funnily enough, is more red of a version. I think it's along the same sort of area, but it's just more red. Oh, everybody likes it. Cheddar. Never would have thought to put cheddar cheese with a pie, unless it's a savoury pie. But that's my personal preferences, and I look at a couple of American apples that you've got that I found fairly interesting. You've got a Honeycrisp apple, which you were found in 1960, which was found in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in Minnesota. That was quite interesting to find out. And you also have the Enterprise apple, which is a late ripening apple and apparently very attractive. And you also have one which I thought just for the name, I sounded really cool. A Cosmic Crisp. Oh, I thought that one I had to take that one down. That one just sounds so cool. Which is a university bred one in 1997. It's actually bred from the Honeycrisp and the Enterprise apples. It's basically just the genetics of those two. You put them together, but I just love the name. Cosmic Crisp. Horse apples? Oh, I didn't come across one of those. Oh, sounds interesting. Yeah. The Red Delicious not as popular, right? Figured you might know better about your apples, because I don't know much about the American apples. To me, when I have an apple, it's either a Golden Delicious or a Granny Smith. If I have an apple pie, I don't know what apples are going into it. I assume it's like a Bramley apple or something like that. But a Bramley apple, they are from, apparently, Bramley apple, they're from Nottinghamshire. So, essentially, just down the road. That's where you got a Bramley apple from. Back in 1809, with a woman called Mary Ann Brailsford, who was from Nottingham. And she, well, I don't know if she created the Bramley apple. She probably had a tree that just gave her the Bramley apples. But either way, that was her. She got the apples. Crab apples, they're like that's the modern day, the malus tree now. That's what the malus trees used to be. Or the malus trees are now crab apple trees in the modern day, because it's so awkward to try and say malus either time. So saying crab apple. Beautiful kitten at Kitten Academy, I'll give you that though. Yes, he was. Lovely, sleek black Kit Kat. No, we're not having any Kit Kats here. Oh, but I want one now. I see a Kit Kat. And I've still got Kitten Academy on in the background. Looks like everybody's gone blooming quiet now. I called for them and they're all gone to sleep now, but they just had mailbag earlier, so they're all a bit knackered. Give them a break. They zoom like mad. Give them a tissue pit. Boom. They're all having fun. Yeah, I'd never have cheese with apples. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't seem right. Yeah, it's great that they're going together. It's great that going to join it with Gadget. Oh, that's gonna be a mad lot, isn't it? Because Sham and Gambit. By the way, Stephen, these are cats. Before you start getting confused, these are cats from Kitten Academy that you probably won't know very much about. So I don't want to throw you off here. You're wondering, what is he on about? What is he talking about shams and gambits for? They were part of the class in Kitten Academy. Don't know. There's a lot of things that I probably should try. A lot of meals and food that I probably should try, but it's kind of thing I've never really been keen on putting the sweet and savoury together. It's just a difficult one to try and do. I like an Eve's pudding. They were nice. because it's like a Victoria sponge cake with custard on it, and I like them. The Eve's pudding, they were good. They were really nice because it's got a nice few elements to it. I don't know if any of you like Eve's pudding. It's a proper classic. It was a classic British. Don't worry, Stephen. If you ever get confused, I'll do my best to try and clear things up for you. I'm not. Don't worry, Stephen. I have not lost my marbles. Though I may be a bit eccentric, as you probably, but you know me enough by now. Anyway, we were out together earlier. You know, we had good fun. And I'm glad you enjoyed yourself on the outreach earlier. It's brilliant of you. Glad that you came out with us, and I'm glad that you plan on coming out again. The outreach today went really well, and thankfully the weather played ball with us. I'll have to I've mentioned it to Stephen in the past. I don't think I've ever gone into detail, but Stephen, I mentioned Kitten Academy. That is Kitten Academy there on my TV screen. So you just search for Kitten Academy on there. It's an amazing thing. And also, we've got Kitten Academy on my shirt again. I give my support to them. I might as well show them off and get the best of both worlds. I give you a little bit of history, and then we just have some fun after that. Because there's not really much I can do with apples. You kind of taking this over now, huh? Just giving me all your apple dishes, and it's really exciting to know the sort of things that you do with your apples. You have a real life. Listen, Stephen, you're always welcome to come and watch. It's nice to have you here live, though. It's nice to have you. Sorry to do this. It's nice to have you awake. So, I can't remember what you said they were. Actually, I don't even remember you telling me that you had the kittens. Did you? You might have shown me some. You might have shown me some photos, didn't you? You showed me photos. Yes. You're not that old. You seem pretty sprightly when you're going around. You seem like you're always full of pumped of energy when you're coming out. When you're coming out, you always seem so pumped when things are going wrong. Yeah, I saw the photos. Yes, you did. You flicked through them the other week with me, didn't you? I think it was while we were at the food bank. You flicked through them with me. Yeah, I'm remembering. It's coming back. I can't remember fully what they were like, because I think they were with the dogs, wasn't they? You had them with. To be fair, Stephen, I think you're dog. A lot of people, you see, because I see a lot of people, they all want to show me their photos, and it's like I can't remember who's got dogs, who's got cats, who's got a goldfish. So nobody has ever showed me a picture of a goldfish. I don't know why I brought that up, but hey. Though there is a guy who showed me that he used to sort whales out and stuff. He used to be well skilled. One of the guys who goes to church with us showed me a photo of him. He used to tend like whales and sharks and stuff. Kind of an aquarium. He used to make sure they were all right, looked after them, sort of things. So he's a good guy. Don't know if you know Stephen. I don't know if you know James. But hang on, I'm having a private meeting here with you, Stephen, right? I'm forgetting everybody else. Don't worry, you're all welcome here. How do you know? I don't know, I forgot. Apples chunked with cinnamon on morning oatmeal. Well, that one sounds fair, because you're meant to have kind of fruit in the morning, aren't you? It's meant to be one of those that boosts your energy for the day. You have a bit of fruit, boom. Yeah, give yourself an uppercut. No, you'll be back to sleep. And it's so lovely to see. I mean, you've got loads of stuff. There's a Danish pork dish that is actually a savoury one, but I can barely say it. It's an appelflæsk, which actually stands for apple pork, which I find a lot more easier to say because it's just a load of letters, numbers, and everything. It's a Danish pork dish fried with apples and thyme and sugar. I am sorry, but pork. Yeah. Remember when I was at Happy Days? They did a pork loin, and they gave out 2 bowls full of applesauce on each table. So yeah, I kind of figured that pork and applesauce, because it's kind of like when you have lamb, you've got to have some sort of mint sauce with it, haven't you? It's kind of a done thing. It's just these things go together. But the one thing that I always need when I have a roast dinner or something, I gotta have tons of gravy on it. Just give me loads of gravy. I thought you've already eaten, Stephen. You need more food? Yeah. There's a load of funny names here that I got, that are dishes that I never thought. I mean, there's a Jewish apple cake, a cake made with apples with a traditional to Ashkenazi Jewish cuisine, savory in Pennsylvania. So you get it over in Pennsylvania as well, over in your neck of the woods, I believe. That's just a funny one, but it's made in Poland, but it came popular over in America. Very interesting how things always travel over, but you've got the apples for it, it seems. And there's another one that I struggle to say, a Medimerska Jibnica, which is a Croatian layer cake dish with walnuts, fresh cheese, which is labelled as quark, and poppy seeds with grated apples on top. Sounds like quite a dish, actually, that one does. Big. I think there was a picture. It was like a big cake with it's like it could be a wedding cake, essentially. It's just on top of each other. It's like, blooming heck. How much could you get? How much more could you get? None. If you have any more, it'll just fall off. It's the problem sometimes with the layer cake. I always worry when I see them on wedding cakes. It's kind of like, it looks like it's stocked up. Anymore, it's like going to lean over and just go kaplonk. Waste of effort. I forget we're having the clocks moving back as well. Well, over here we are. So I'm mostly pointing this one to Stephen. Though those of you who are from Britain watching, make sure you change the clocks back. If you're watching this live right now, make sure you move your clocks back, because we don't want you waking up an hour later for no reason. Oh, man. Obviously, apple. Well, we mentioned pretty much all the drinks of apple, because apple cider, apple juice, apple soda. Apple soda is pretty much I think that's an American, just a fizzy. It's basically fizzy apple juice, but in the soft drink format. But I'm not sure do we have an apple soda? But we have an apple tizer, I think. Does that really count? And there's a Calvados and Roger Grout from 1553. It's a form of apple brandy that the French had over in Normandy. So it's quite a mouthful to say, but if it was only around in 1553, I don't think any of us have to worry about it anymore. Got an Applejack. She's just an alcoholic drink which is produced from apples, essentially. But yeah, could do a lot with drinks in the apples format. Sticky toffee apple. Oh, I forgot the candy apples and stuff like that, didn't I? Oh, it's Halloween coming up. How could I forget? Yeah, that and the apples, the candy apples. Oh my! I had that written down as well because you got the candy and toffee apples, which are covered in sugar and syrup and some colouring. Put some sprinkles on there as well. I've seen. You can go all nuts with it and everything. Literally, you could probably put nuts on it. Chocolate. Fact. Oh dear. Give me a break. I've still 9 minutes. Tell me now, we're at 51 minutes already. Where did the time go? I tell you, when I really get into it, I'm off. I'm doing this. Hey, are you enjoying yourself? That's the important thing. I don't know whether you've learnt anything from today or I don't mind. We're just here having a laugh. I'm just here having a laugh with some friends. If anybody else wants to join in, then they're welcome to. Yes, bobbing for apples as well. Oh dear, I'm having one. Oh man, what time are we? Right, we are in Halloween. Yes, bobbing for apples. Bobbing for apples, definitely. I could never do that. I've got that fear of water. I couldn't do that. TARDIS and Doctor Who. I don't remember mentioning anything about that, but you might have had apples. I don't know. Well, yes. Hang on, you going with the apple a day keeps the doctor away. That sort of thing. You know, I found out that actually is true because there has been an experiment that has been taken where they have had people who there's some sort of experiment where they've had people eat an apple at least once a day, and they've compared it to people who don't. And apparently, those who do have an apple every day, they did it for like 100 days or something. Well, they did it for a longer period of time, so they had to check it, and they realised there is actually genuinely less chance, a significant drop in the chance of heart failure and everything. So when they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, it's not just a saying, it's actually the truth. It can. So those of you who don't eat enough fruit, I know I'm one of them. I probably need to eat a lot more fruit, but when they say that, there's actually scientific results from it. So yeah, get your apples out and eat them. Not too many though, because you gotta be careful. Because there's also something else that I found out, that was a bit nerving, but you'd have to eat so many apples for this to take effect. Apparently, if you have way too many apples, it has a cyanide effect. But I think you'd have to eat 1 million apples or something before that really happens. And I think if you even got to a few of them, you'd actually be full, because that's just the natural body. We just get full. So I don't think we'd have to worry about the cyanide effects. That would be funny in wartime. You got a cyanide pill? No, here's an apple. Just choke on that. Yeah, there's more chance of you choking on the apple instead of actually having the juices. Yeah. Yes, you'll learn. Yes, you will learn a lot from my crew here. Whether you learn out from me, I don't know. We just got me prattling about. At the end of the day, I'm just prattling about and just shouting the word apple every so often, just to keep it on topic. But I don't really mind. I'm just a relaxed guy. There's a lot of things that I probably haven't covered that, well, if I haven't covered it, I can almost guarantee that it's been covered somewhere in the chat. I mean, I'm not Mr. Perfect. I'm not going to remember everything. I take all these notes. I can't possibly get them all in an hour. And sometimes I get too fast, and if I do try and read them too fast, then you don't get the information because I'm reading too fast and you can't listen fast enough. Or get you walking. I'll get you a walking stick, Stephen, if that's what you need. DN, it's been great. It's been great having you. It's been great having you here. You've been such a wonderful guest here. You're always welcome. I'll probably speak to you later sometime anyway. See how you are. But we've all got to go for a nap and have just everybody take care of themselves. Just make sure you look after yourselves and everything. We're nearly at the end of the show anyway. I can't believe how fast time goes. Oh, you want a Zimmer frame? Yeah. You're enjoying yourself. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy chatting with you guys. It just makes it better when I have people come in and I know that I'm going to have some wonderful people to chat to because you're all wonderful people. Zimmer frame, a scooter, blooming heck. Stephen, you'll be in an old people's home by the end of tonight. Hopefully you're not planning on staying at home. We're checking you. We check out of your house. We're going to put you into an old people's home. You want a lift? Yeah. I mean, I would do more live streams. The problem is, at the end of the day, you've seen how much energy I could go at. I might not make it because I tried doing the once. We tried doing the once a week thing, but I wasn't really putting as much effort in. I'd rather have a topic, research that topic, and just give out all my efforts from the month and just basically share all the research that I've got. Yes, I probably haven't got anything. I probably haven't even touched the iceberg with the apples yet. I mean, if you want to touch an iceberg, grab an ice apple. Sorry, that was terrible. That was. But yes, I've mentioned they do have ice apples, but they're usually the winter sort of apples. If you want to, I forgot to mention a tarte tatin, which is basically a version of an apple pie, which is a French apple pie essentially. But I feel like I've given out all the information that I feel that you need, and I'm so glad that you've all come here. You're all wonderful people, and I'm just grateful that you show up and you all just enjoy yourself and you like listening to me ramble for an hour. You have a good. It's great to see you, Joanne. Have a good time doing what you do. Have a good time up in Bonnie, Scotland. Yeah, go on, lady. Don't worry, Sharon. That's why I've took it down to once a month. And besides, when I was doing them once a week, I had no plan whatsoever. It was literally just me switch the camera on and chat. It was literally no. But now I'm focusing mostly on history because I just love history. And I love sharing the fact that I love history. Whether my love of history rubs off on you guys, it will be brilliant. But if I can't get through to you, you've at least got the silly side. I'm the silly who's delivering the history. Oh man, I am terrible with this tonight. That one. Next month we're doing costumes. That's next month's topic. So I'm still trying to work out what kind of costumes that I could talk about, but there's a lot to costumes. I've just got to try and list a load off because I've got to go and look at. I think I'm probably going to look at individual events that trying to find out what equates to a costume, because it could be a long list, but it could be a lot of fun because it could mean that you get to share what silly costumes you've been able to wear, something like that. So maybe it's going to be a show about you telling me about your costumes mostly. It's going to be kind of like tonight's show where it's been mostly I'll tell you the history of it, but you tell me your experiences with an apple. Goodness gracious me, I said your experience with an apple. Like you can have a bad experience. An apple's an apple, unless you're allergic to an apple. But anyway, thank you everyone for being here tonight. You've all been wonderful guests, and I will pray that to see you all again very soon, or by the end of this next month, which I know for sure will zoom through, and we'll be back around to me doing a live stream again. However it's delivered, I never know. Most of the time I wing it. Even if I've got a topic, I go off topic. Forgive me for that, but I just love just chatting. Just give me an excuse to chat, and I'm happy. Anyway, thank you. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you at church tomorrow, Stephen. It's been great. Okay. Goodbye, everybody. I've got to go. Okay. Bye.